Monday, June 7th. I'm Scott.
I'm Rim.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, what if Ghost in the Shell? Oh shit.
Let's do this. So I got a new computer at work. Finally.
What was wrong with the computer you had at work before?
It was slow as balls.
All right.
So I got a new one, and I'm setting it all up, get my new email, and I didn't check my email for like a couple hours while I'm setting this thing up. And all my coworkers around me are laughing at something, but I'm kind of busy, so I don't ask them what. And I finally get my email back on. Now, I'm going to not say who these emails came from. Suffice it to say, there's some big names in the financial world. Some very big individual names and names of exchanges.
Famous people know? Would these be someone normal people would know?
No, normal people wouldn't know. But like, imagine if the head of a technology group of a stock exchange was involved. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say who. I'm not going to say who. However,
there aren't that many stock exchanges.
Can you name the stock exchanges in America?
NASDAQ.
Yeah.
Nice. Amex.
Yeah.
That's it.
No, there's more. What about bats?
You want me to do foreign ones?
No, what about bats?
I don't know what bats is.
Yeah, and you know what? NASDAQ was not a stock exchange until surprisingly recently.
Yeah, well, there's also, I can do foreign ones.
Anyway, so basically what happened here was I get an email. In fact, as far as I can tell, pretty much every tech in the financial world got this same email. And it was someone inside of an unnamed company who obviously had opened a ticket with some other unnamed company. And they were having questions about this an upcoming technological issue. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to be vague because I don't want to get in trouble for talking about the specifics. But basically, there's an upcoming change, and there's this little email chain, and some guy responds, and he's like, "Yeah, that doesn't really answer my question. I think I need more information." Blah blah blah. He must have done the famous reply to all instead of simply reply. And the party involved that had originally addressed the issue did not have any protection on their internal mailing lists. So his reply to all, as far as I can tell, went to every high-level technology worker in the financial sector in the United States. This is a big fucking email chain. And you're tech. You've been in that situation where some jackass replies to all, and then someone else starts replying to all. And then the third person's like, I don't want to get these emails anymore, but they reply to all. And then someone else does, and it just goes on forever. So this was actually the two moments of hilarity.
If you don't want to get them anymore, click the mark as spam button.
So after this starts
a filter in
expanding,
your
the two hilarious moments. One, the director of a big department at a very large company replied to all, and basically said, I'm a very busy person, and I really shouldn't be receiving these emails. You're clogging up my inbox, so please stop it. And immediately, some other guy from some other company responds and is like, yes, I concur. But what took the cake was that the guy who originally did this obviously realized he had done fucked up.
So, he did? Oh, he realized it. Okay.
So he replied to all, and he's like, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Now, never mind the fact that
they're all continuing to reply to all.
Yes. And someone else in his company replied to all to say, yeah, also it was a mistake. Please just no one respond and this will just be done. But then the big up who had replied to everyone happened to be the same company as the person who fucked up in the first place. Uh-huh. And this all spiraled, and I don't even know where it left because I eventually left work and it was still going on. But
whoa,
my favorite moment was not this executive lady or whoever.
You should have just replied to all. Like you had all the email addresses, right?
I had the lists.
Right. So take the list of email addresses, make a new email from like a Gmail account that goes to all those email addresses and put up Goatsy or something like that.
Yeah. The industry I work in, the FBI would be knocking on my door.
How what for Goatsy? Goatsy's not against the law.
Actually,
it is not illegal to email someone Goatsy.
I could probably get in trouble nonetheless because because the mailing lists, it's complicated. The way the mailing list works, I would get in trouble.
All right. Well, what if you emailed a little cat?
So all that aside.
It's definitely not illegal.
My favorite, but one, we're at work, we're like, what's the best thing we could do? And I suggested, why don't we send an Outlook meeting notice to all meet up in Bryant Park and have lunch together?
Is everyone in New York, or were there people on the list not in New York?
The whole world, as far as I can tell. One of my other coworkers was like, I should just put my resume, see what happens. Other guy was like, I should just put a personal ad up right now.
Well, did that many ladies on the list?
I don't know. I don't even know. But my favorite moment was some guy from some like third yet unmentioned company who responded well after things was going on, who was like, yeah, you know, everyone says they don't want to receive these emails, but frankly, I also have this question that was raised originally, and I'd really like to know the answer. So could we keep everyone in the loop? Now, I got to tell all of you people who have ever been in one of these situations, if you ever reply to all in a situation where that has already started, you're a jackass. You do not deserve email. You're only making it worse.
No. I think that
unless you prank them all.
There's nothing wrong with replying to all in that situation. In fact, it's awesome. And if you are someone who can't just make a mail filter, you shouldn't be using email.
I'll put it differently. There are two kinds of people who reply to all. People who have no business using email, and people like us who are trolling everybody else.
If you don't know how to make an email filter or mark something as spam, then this is pretty much inevitably going to happen to you, and you need to be able to deal with it. Otherwise, you shouldn't be using email.
See, the thing is, the real trouble is that this only happens because pretty much everyone responding to this list clearly has some sort of failing of understanding in technology in some manner. A lot of the emails were surprisingly poorly formed. I'm sorry, you are confused and such like that.
You know, for example, I bet you, right, a lot of money, right? Like Steve Jobs, everyone knows his email address is like sjobs@apple.com,
Yep.
right? I bet he doesn't have another email address. I bet that's the only one. And you know what he probably does? He probably has a filter that says if the sender is from @apple.com, meaning it's an employee, right? Or
then delete it.
Or if it's from someone on this contact list, you know, wife, kids, etc., right? Then,
delete it.
Then bring it in the inbox, right? Otherwise, put it in the separate folder. And his iPhone probably only goes doo when someone on his contact list emails him, you know, which probably includes like other CEOs and other important people, right? And he doesn't need to have a separate email address or keep any secrets or anything like that. And then when he wants to, when he's bored, he can go and he can click, you know, intentionally on the customer email folder, which is probably flooded. And, you know, just look at the subject lines.
And there's probably crazy shit in there.
Yeah, and just see if there's anything fun in there. You know, it's like an RSS feed. It's like, oh, that one looks cool. Let's see what's in there. Okay, I'll reply to, you know. It's like a little pastime when he's bored instead of playing Farmville, you know?
Yep. I mean, like all the emails you guys send us to Geeknights, they go into my email account. I can read them, but they don't make my phone buzz.
Yeah. Right. So that's, you know, if you don't know how to do email like that, you shouldn't be using email.
Well, you know what? It's the same situation. The same, you know, people who use Gmail basically stopped having to deal with spam because the spam filter's so good.
I would reply to all with a tutorial on making Outlook filters. I mean, Outlook has it right there in the left-hand sidebar.
So I know for a fact.
Rules and actions. It's a top-level item there.
I know for a fact that a good number of the people on that list use Lotus Notes.
Oh, shit. That's
Which, you know what? But has a much more powerful engine for filtering.
I was about to say, Lotus Notes can do it even better than Outlook.
That's one thing I can say about Lotus Notes, because I'm one of those people who use Lotus. You know, I worked at IBM. I used Lotus Notes for like 3 years. It has a lot of pros. Like Outlook is good at what it does. Lotus is a lot more powerful in the end user's hands, but it also gives them much more rope with which to fuck themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I guess we can't get around talking about frickin' Apple and their new announcements about phones and...
Yeah.
I don't think we really need to go through like everything that was announced because
why would you need to do? Anyone can go and look it up.
Yeah, you guys don't come to us for the news because it's at least 4 hours after the news happens that we talk about it.
Yeah. Okay. So let me just remember the things. Okay. So first of all,
Farmville.
Oh shit! It's the end of the world. Basically,
I think Farmville is already on the downswing.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that at all.
I have this feeling. It's hard to say.
It's higher than Bejeweled. It's like shit. And as soon now that people can play it when they're walking around, right? They're gonna play it even more. And then there's gonna be people who didn't play it before, but now because you had to like sit at a computer or Facebook or something. See, but now Farmville's gonna be its own app. So these people who just have iPhones or whatever, or iPod Touches, can just play Farmville while sitting on the couch, laying back, and they can just play it as they walk around town.
Now, that is it's a fine point. But I'm going to make a highly generalized, possibly offensive counterpoint.
All right.
You ready for this? A little bit offensive, possibly, but I'm pulling this out of my butt, and this is just me speculating 100%. I do not mean to offend anyone. I will put forth supposition the first. The majority of people who play Farmville regularly are not terribly wealthy.
I don't know. My mom plays Farmville.
Yeah.
She's got more money than me.
Yeah. But I would say that on average...
She can afford 3 kids to go to college.
I would say that on average, the people who are most susceptible to a game like Farmville are people who don't have a lot going on in their lives.
All right.
I mean, on average, like many people, the kinds of people who are like, they're sitting there and they just need a serotonin boost constantly and they're on Facebook and their friend sends them a poke and then they make the farm and all that BS. I don't think there's that big of an overlap between current iPhone owners in the current economy and the people who are seriously actually addicted to Farmville. Yes.
But maybe the Farmville people will buy iPhones. And maybe the iPhone people will start playing Farmville.
Now, my guess is that a large number of people who play Farmville
come on, Rim. Remember, like the top-selling app on iPhone was like Fart Machine.
Yeah, but Fart Machine is universal.
No, it's the same as Farmville.
Here's the thing, though.
They might as well call it Fartville.
Scott, so we're sitting in a restaurant, right? And you got your iPhone out, and someone has an iPhone out, and they just use the Fart Machine. You would laugh at least a little bit. Tiny amusement happens.
No, it's more like they're sitting there, they're playing Farmville, and they say, "Hey, I got some corn. You want some brick?" And I'm like, "Oh shit."
In fact, I would argue that Fart Machine is more of a game than Farmville because Fart Machine at least causes who farted to happen.
No, it's a really bad.
Well, it's like who Farmville.
All right.
I don't know. I don't think this is going to be nearly as bad as a lot of people are making it out to be because I don't think the people who are most affected by Farmville are the same people who in the next year or two will have an iPad.
Yeah. The things I think are most notable are A, they didn't announce anything but the iPhone 4. They didn't announce a single thing.
Yeah, what about all your speculation out there on the internet?
There was no Safari, there was no standalone touchpad, there was no nothing.
The iPad mini, the iPad Nano, it's called the Touch.
Yeah, but they didn't have a single thing except the phone, right? And all the stuff that they had was in the phone.
Yep, they didn't announce Verizon.
No, well, that's not going to happen. I can pretty much guarantee that. But the one thing that I think the overall thing here is that, well, look, every other phone still sucks. Yes, Apple is evil. It's closed. Whatever. It's, this is bad. This is bad. This is bad. But every other phone sucks a dick compared to the iPhone.
Well, it depends on what you're looking to do. I mean, I like the form factor of the somewhat smaller smartphones compared to the iPhone.
The iPhone is smaller than all the other smartphones.
It's not smaller than my Pre.
Have you looked at these size comparisons?
I'm not talking about thickness. I'm talking about height and width.
What do you need more or less height and width for?
I like a tiny phone. I carry my phone everywhere, but I carry it like in my pocket while I'm running.
Mine fits in my pocket while I'm running.
It's bigger than mine, though.
So?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how big. It just matters, whether that size affects anything. You could have an iPhone in your pocket and run. It would be no different. It would not.
I think it would be different.
It would be no different. No different at all. Anyway, the size is not really that important either.
Really, it's not so much. I mean, while the new iPhone, and even the older iPhones do a lot of things very well compared to other smartphones, and while the lack of openness really right now only affects people like us who rabble about it, and it doesn't really affect the average user, most of what they have is just polish.
Which matters a fuck ton. That's the whole point. It's
the thing is, like me, if I bought an iPhone,
look at like WoW, right? It's like, okay, so you look at WoW, right? Compared to all the other MMOs, all the MMOs suck. Every single one. They are all fundamentally flawed, right? Every single one. There is not one out there that is awesome. Okay, and WoW has the polish. So,
from a business perspective, I agree with you 100%.
No, so therefore, if you're gonna play one, it's gonna be WoW because all the other ones are intolerable. Like, it's like they're all bad. This one's intolerable. So all smartphones, all phones, period, are fucked up and they suck. They all have all the carriers.
You keep saying things are so bad. What would the new iPhone buy me that I don't have on my Pre?
iMovie.
I don't really use that anyway because
you go to a convention, you could take a movie of a cosplayer, push a button, and it'll be on YouTube. And you could edit the video right on the phone, right there, that moment.
Yeah.
Nothing else even.
That's really nice, but
it's 720p.
Yeah, that's fucking
30
awesome.
frames a second.
That's fucking awesome.
Right. So you can't even do videos over there. Not at all.
Actually, I can.
Can you? Is it anywhere remotely close to
what?
To iMovie in HD videos?
No.
Okay.
I'm saying for me, it's not a game changer because that's not something I need yet.
Okay, you said the same thing. Like, oh, I never need a smartphone.
No, I always said I want a smartphone, but they're not at the right price point and functionality point yet. And the day they were, I bought a smartphone.
If you had the iPhone with the HD, immediate YouTube, you would be using it like crazy at every convention. It is absolutely something.
Probably not, because I use Twitter a lot of conventions, and I tweet and do stuff like that less and less and less because I'm not really in. I've given up on the immediate cataloging of stuff I do, and I'm much more interested in the post-hoc cataloging instead.
So what about the...
That's why I bought the flip camera.
So why didn't you just get no smartphone? You'd save a lot of money.
Because I use the smartphone for web browsing, Google Maps, and I track my GPS, like my jogging, stuff like that.
But there are phones that have that are not smartphones.
That's just a nice high-resolution web browser.
Yeah, you can just... Well, you're not going to get better resolution than the iPhone, that's for sure.
It's high enough to read Slashdot and stuff on the subway.
Why are you reading Slashdot? Oh, God.
Okay.
Slashdot is so dead.
It's doing fine.
You always seem to say this like, oh, this is good enough. Whatever you have is good enough.
Slashdot doesn't have.
You have no ambition to get something that is better ever.
So
how long did it take? Right, wait. This is the same Rim who was like, oh, I don't need to upgrade my shitty old Mozilla to Firefox until like Firefox 2 or 3 came out.
Until it stopped crashing my shitty old computer.
No, it did not crash a shitty old computer. You were just far reluctant to go for anything new, and you'll always say that whatever you have is adequate until you actually get something new. You're just returning to your old ways.
Usually when
again.
I get something new, it's because something that I had before stopped working, or there was a killer app.
You break your DS on purpose to get a DS Lite, and then you'll say that the DS
Scott,
was just
you
fine.
Seriously think I broke my DS on purpose?
You break plenty of things on purpose.
In fact, I remember when I broke my DS. We were doing the show, and you were talking about something, and I was ignoring you. I was leveling up my Pokemon, and the screen just I set it down on the desk because you stopped talking. I had to talk, and the top screen just shattered.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
The point is that nothing else is even remotely close to the iPhone. Why can't anyone do it? All of these improvements, right down the line, are just completely obvious, right? Like, put a gyroscope in there, make the camera not suck, make the video not suck. It's like nothing here is like nothing no one thought of before. It wasn't like they had an original idea anywhere in here. Everything was just obvious ideas. They actually did it. That's all they did, right?
Well, that's the difference between them and Google. Google will do stuff like that, but they'll do it 80% there, and then we'll give up on it.
I could go to Google and I could tell them every single one of these ideas, and I could tell them 100 other obvious ideas. And if they did every single one of those, all they'd just do them all. Then they would destroy Apple. Apple would have no chance.
Could they, though? Because I thought Apple had a monopoly on all the good designers.
They just hired that design guy, right? Why don't they actually put him to work?
Maybe they are. Maybe he's working on stuff.
And that's another thing. How come no one can design? We've talked about this before. How come no one can design anything?
Plus,
what the hell? There can't be only one designer of phones in the whole world.
See, at least I do want to point out that HTC is not there yet by any stretch, but they have the most promise of any hardware phone maker outside of Apple right now. Straight up, like if anyone is ever going to dethrone Apple in the hardware realm on phones, it's got to be HTC because HP is not going to do anything, even with their WebOS. But in terms of just software, WebOS was probably, I think, a better contender than Android, just in terms of polish and flash and functionality. But then again, they had the fucking iPhone guys.
Yep.
Which is so crazy to me that despite no one can do it, it seems.
I don't know. They're just retarded. I don't know what's up with that. But someone actually wrote it. There was an article I was reading today about Android fragmentation, right? How people are always complaining that, if I make an Android app, I've got to either make it for Android 1.5 and not use any new features.
Well, didn't Google announce that 2.2 is going to be like the last quick release, and then they're going to have a much longer cycle?
I didn't see anything about that.
We were talking about that at work. Someone said that it looks like the plan is 2.2 will be a huge update, and then there will be much longer cycles between
Well, that's not good because they need to catch up to Apple. They need big changes real fast.
Maybe this is pure speculation. I don't know what the time frame is on 2.2. I haven't really looked into it. What if they got that designer guy working hardcore in an Apple style?
I don't know. We'll see. But the thing is, right, people are talking about fragmentation, and it's like it sucks. If I make an app, I got to make it I got to work really hard to make it work on all these different fucking phones, and it sucks, right? Whereas it's much easier with the iPhone because it's only, there's so few and they all have the same OS and it just works. Whatever. So the one guy was like, look, right, the way the cell phone market used to work for a long time, like HTC and all these guys, Samsung, Motorola, right, they really didn't have any control over the software that they were putting on their phones. So what they did is they would just keep iterating on the hardware really quickly. That's why there are like 16 different razors, right, all running the same software because they couldn't do anything about the software. So they just kept updating the phone constantly. So these guys are really good at updating phone hardware rapidly. But they're not good at software. They suck ass at software. They have no idea, right? So now they're moving, now they got Android. They're actually moving to a different situation where you don't have to keep upgrading the hardware constantly. You have one hardware and you just keep upgrading the software. And they're not used to that. So he's like, as soon as they get used to it, it'll be all good, right? But I think the core problem here is that you have this Android, which is designed to work on pretty much any, phone hardware that meets like the minimum specs, compared to the iPhone where the OS is, the software is made specifically for one hardware, and that's it. And on a computer, right, this buys you a little bit on the computer, right? The Mac, right, they have a software that is meant to go on that hardware, and it buys them a little bit, right? They have the nice, like, multi-gesture touchpad on there. That's, like, the only thing on the MacBook that I like, right? And it buys them that much. But it doesn't really buy them anything else because every computer, even Macs, are still a mouse, a keyboard, and a flat screen. And all software, Linux, Mac, Windows, is made for that set of interfaces, and there isn't really much you can do to change the hardware really so that software wouldn't integrate well. But on a phone, something small, the hardware is crazy different, right? The thing that got the iPod so big is the fact that it has that little circle in the middle, and every other freaking one has something stupid that tries to knock it off.
Think back to Nintendo. Nintendo's revolution was that D-pad.
Yep, it's a D-pad, right? So all their stuff is made for the D-pad, and everyone else has, ghetto D-pads.
Yeah, to this day, the Xbox 360's directional pad is a piece of shit.
It's the worst. Oh, God. I guess, even at least the PlayStation has, like, the 4 separate buttons, so you can't fuck it up. Even though it's not as good as a D-pad on the Nintendo, but it's all right. It's better than the Xbox One. So the fact that Apple integrates the hardware and the software, they don't have the fragmentation issue. They don't, right? They solve all these problems at once. It gives them a huge, it's like, imagine you're playing a board game, right? And you've got like, something, and it's like, okay, this thing is +5, but only +5 in this situation, otherwise +1. So in PCs, integrating the hardware and the software gives Apple +1, but on phones, +5. And the other people can't really compete with the +5 because they're not making the hardware and the software together. Yeah, and I think it's going to stay that way for a while. And I'm just like, oh, fuck it. I hate all this closed shit. But all the other phones suck so bad. This phone still sucks the least. I haven't made a mobile app yet. I don't see me making a mobile app in the future.
It's possible where people like us might end up. I mean, I always say it, but the dark horse is still Windows.
Yeah.
It's such a dark horse, but they're going in a different direction from everybody else.
But they're still not going to have the hardware-software integration.
No, unless they make some deal with HTC. That'd be my dream team.
I don't know. It's rough.
Or if only HTC had gotten WebOS, because WebOS...
If only HTC would learn how to do some fucking software, right? I mean, they keep trying to modify it, like do the Sense UI thing.
HTC needs to give up on all that, and they need to just get into a direct 100% partnership with someone who makes software and agree
Well, that's the thing, is that HTC only cares about selling hardware, right? So what are they going to do? They're going to make phones that... for every possible software, so that no matter which one you're using, you're going to buy an HTC phone will be the best.
But I think they might sell more hardware if they combine with someone else. Like, it's too late for WebOS, but if they bought Palm and then those two together made the unified environment like Apple did, and then they push that to try to make themselves the number 2 in the market.
The thing is, to make unified, you'd have to start over again. The Palm is already sort of integrated with the devices, right? They've got sort of that touch screen below the screen area, and they've got the Pixie.
I really like that. That little touch, I really like on the Pre.
It's not that exciting.
I like it. It works really well. Also, the kind of feedback you get with that glowing orb and everything. Let's talk at least a little bit about some of the other things, because they announced iAds, and it made me realize that for as long as I've had a smartphone, anytime I've installed an app and it so much as showed me an ad, I deleted it immediately.
Yep.
And I can't imagine myself ever being at a point where I will ever want to see an ad in anything ever again.
There's ads in your mobile browser. You don't have ad block on your phone, do you?
Yeah, but you know what? The slash dot ads don't show up. So
that's pretty good.
Plus, I use RSS readers whenever I can too.
Oh,
so
snap.
I block the ads wherever I can, and an ad like being
Someone should
integrated-
make some sort of like web proxy you can use on your phone that would block the ads for you.
that'd be a good way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But iAd is interesting because I think it's going to cause there's going to be a lot more submissions to the store initially, I think, from scummy, crappy companies making crappy little apps.
Well, no, the thing is, right, iAds, it bothers me and it doesn't bother me, right? It bothers me that they're trying to push ads on the phone. It's like, I don't want ads on my phone, get the fuck away. But you know what? There's already ads all over. Pretty much a ton of free iPhone apps all have ads in them.
Yep.
And the ads are coming from other companies that aren't Apple. And Apple, I think, said they're going to continue to allow those. They're not going to kick them off as long as, they don't, break the other rules that are going on there, right? But the thing is, those ads are just really annoying and shitty, and they don't work. Like, I was once playing this free game, and this ad showed up, and then I uninstalled the game, of course. But the ad, pauses in your middle of the game, goes full screen, and then you try to push the next button and it barely works, and then it tries to play this video and you got to pause it and then you wait for the.
Yep. But look at what Apple's doing. They're polishing the experience of putting shit in your face.
Exactly, and then they're selling it to much bigger brands instead of hey, play some online poker now, which is what the ads are doing on the phones, right? They're going to be like, hey, go watch the latest movie in the theaters. So it's good that the ads will be less, bothersome, but it's bad that there's going to be more ads, and I'll just have to avoid it. But as long as they're only in apps, right? They're not putting them in the OS. So as long as you don't have an app with ads in it, you'll be all right. Which usually, I guess, means paying for apps or finding free ones that don't have ads.
I don't think there's a lot more really important to talk about with this thing.
No, it's just, it's just more of a repeat story. It's like, look, yet again, why does everyone suck? This is, if I just had a bunch of high quality designers and programmers and I was the boss of them and I could all I'd have to do is walk in on the first day, write a checklist and say, when you've done everything on this checklist, you can release the phone. Oh, and it has to be done within, 6 months, because if you don't, I'm going to have to add some more things to the checklist in 6 months as technology advances. And all they had to do is finish the list and Apple would be...
All they have to do is write the software.
Yeah, and then Apple would be dead and that would be it. But no one can do it. Why not? And then they come out and they release phones where the checklist is half checked. And it's like, dude, no one wants that. You're not even half as good as what the other guy already has.
Part of the issue might be, look at what Apple does every time they release a new iPhone or something. They release missing a lot of functionality that people say they want, but because of the brand and because of the power and the polish, people will buy at much higher margins things that don't do everything on the checklist, which probably subsidizes development of the other things on the checklist to bring more of the people in and always stay ahead of everybody.
But that's the thing is
if you were like, I got my new phone, no one's going to pay what they pay for an iPhone for your awesome phone, no matter how awesome it is, right away.
Well, here's the right. It is true that Apple has not checked off every box on the list. Remember they didn't check off copy paste. They didn't even have apps to begin with, right? And that is why they are beatable. Because if you do check off more boxes than they do, you can win.
It's hard to say.
If they actually checked off the whole thing, they would be invincible, right?
Their brand name is really... Don't underestimate the power of that brand. It would take a lot to bring that brand down.
Because part of the that if you had everything on the checklist, that would be enough.
So part of your checklist, I thought you don't agree with coercing people through persuasive argument and advertising. You're going to alter people's brains?
You wouldn't need to, because it would have to be designed really well and it would be amazing in its own right.
But isn't designing really well just a form of coercion, just like politeness is?
No, in a device, in a thing that you are carrying with you, it's not about the design of coercing you.
What if you have to trick them into buying it with advertising?
You don't need to trick anyone into buying it because it's industrial design. It's obviously superior and a better experience.
I point out obviously superior and better experience have often not meant much in the consumer world.
Really? When have they not? When is the obviously superior thing not been the consumer product of choice?
Betamax?
In the technology world.
Betamax?
But it was not obviously superior. It had less running time, and people don't give a shit about quality of the video or the audio. They cared about the running time and the price, much more. So that is why VHS won. It was obviously superior to the consumer.
Well, see, the thing is, you keep saying obviously superior to the consumer, but different consumers do have different utility.
The consumer as a whole, right? The mass populace, the price and running time were far greater utility overall. I'm sure there are many people who needed more quality, video editing people and such, and those people bought Betamax.
Yep.
But the vast majority of people, obviously.
Plus, what about Farmville over Counter-Strike?
That obviously more people want Farmville. So
would you say, therefore, that from a game design perspective, Farmville is better? From a marketing perspective, it is.
From an industrial design perspective, Farmville is better.
From a money making for me perspective,
yes.
So things of the day.
Oh shit!
There was a prank at RIT that was oft talked about, but never enacted. I don't know if it would actually work on anyone, but we called it Truck. I'm sure many of you have heard of this before. The idea was that you find someone who's asleep, possibly they've passed out drunk or something, so they're really
Is this like the
asleep.
one where they do the fake buried alive thing?
Ah, the fake buried alive. That was great. I think you're referring to that video in College Humor when the guy finally got out, he punched everybody in the face.
Yeah.
So Truck, what you do is you wait for someone to fall asleep, they're laying on their back, and you take two flashlights and you hold them far away from their face and far apart. And you have two other people standing in either ear just slowly mumbling, truck, 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 getting slowly louder as you bring the flashlights closer and closer together.
Rim, don't you start the flashlights close together and bring them farther apart? Because that's what it looks like when a truck is...
I think you start far away from their face. If you start right in their eyes, it's going to blind them.
No, you have the flashlights close together and far away, and you spread them out as you get closer. That's what it looks like when a truck is heading towards you.
See, we never actually tried to do it. We only talked about it.
Think a truck is coming at you. Two distant lights.
But the point is, we have the lights getting closer. Truck, 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 truck. And then you scream truck and hit him in the face.
With like a pillow or something.
And, we always suspected that people would freak out. And we never did it. And the few times we tried, it didn't work because it probably wouldn't work. But what does work, as this video will show, is waking someone up and yelling instructions at them. Because if you wake someone up urgently enough and you give them instructions while they're still confused, they will probably just do whatever you tell them to do.
Yeah, you shake someone and go, oh my God, oh my God,
bite this banana. Now take this, get in the closet. We're all going to die. And it's great. This video is worth watching. I suggest you try this on your friends.
All right, so I had an issue technologically this morning, right, with SSH, right?
That happens to everyone.
Yes, I had SSH on one computer and on another computer, and I had them configured identically. I had everything identical. And I SSH'd into one with the public key. It was all good. I SSH'd into the other one with the public key. Rejected. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Retired.
So I do SSH, like, ultra verbose to see all the text. Doesn't tell me shit. I'm like, what the fuck?
Well, you put like 2 V's in there?
I have 3 V's in there.
Does that even do anything?
Yeah, it does. You can always get more verbose until you see every single level of debugging.
I'll admit, I've always been more of a I'm the kind of person who will tail varlog messages while I'm doing stuff. I don't tend to use verbose outputs from the
console. I was doing it on the client. It was, SSH, whatever I was doing, but with a -V in there to see some.
See, weird point about the kind of work I do. I'm almost never not everything that ever matters to me is server side. Like if I have a client side problem, I'm like, what?
I was just trying to get the information right about why I was being rejected.
Yep.
So I was like, I'm typing this command and I'm like, well, obviously the server should be telling the client why it was rejected. Yep. So if I do the right, but I didn't see anything and I couldn't for the life of me figure out what the hell it was. And then eventually, right, I went to server fault and I got the answer, which was go look in this log file on the server and you'll find the real answer, which is like var log auth or var log security, something like that. And I found the answer, which is like permissions on this folder. I checked permissions on like all the SSH configs and all those folders. I didn't check permissions on my actual home folder, which apparently matter, which is, I don't know what the fuck is up with that. Anyway. But the reason I was messing with SSH is because of these 3 links that are my thing of the day collectively, right? So one of them is SSH automatic reverse tunnels for workflow simplification.
Whoa.
So what this does is, you can do an SSH tunnel, right? Connect the port on this machine to this port on this machine. So you can make it so that you could telnet to localhost on port 30, and that'll actually take you to port 80 at google.com or some other machine you can SSH to. But it will be over SSH, so it'll be all encrypted, right? What this does is you SSH into a machine. You put some stuff in your SSH config file. It automatically makes a tunnel going the other direction. So then what you can do, for example, is you could, I could SSH the other machine and then SCP something to local, and then it'll come back. So I can copy files back over the line while I'm on the other machine. You can do all sorts of useful things. So this is a very useful trick. Useful trick number 2, transparent multi-hop SSH, right? So you SSH into one machine, and then you have agent forwarding all configured, which I'm not even going to talk about. You can go find out about agent forwarding on your own. And then you SSH from there to another machine, to another machine, to another machine, right? But let's say your network is configured in such a way, right, to where you've got a whole bunch of computers and only one of them has a path out to the world, right? So you have to SSH to that one first, and then to a second one that's like hidden behind it. So you have to SSH 2 times every time you want to talk to this inside machine. Even with agent forwarding, you won't have to type in a password, but you'll still have to SSH 2 times. You can configure SSH in such a way using this transparent multi-hop, so where you SSH directly to the inside machine, and it'll automatically go hop into it, right, through the entryway. And here's the third SSH thing, is this thing called BCVI. I haven't really looked at this too carefully to figure out exactly how it works, but basically it's backchannel VI. And what it allows you to do is you SSH to a remote machine. You have no X forwarding, none whatsoever, no X, right? But you want to use your nice GVIM, your GUI Vim on your local machine. You don't want to use Vim in the terminal. That's not as good. It'll actually, over the forwarding back channel, whatever, open up the remote file in the local graphical Vim, and then you can save it, and it'll save to the other where it's supposed to save. And that's pretty awesome. That's like, I always end up installing X on machines that don't need X just so I can use it. Or I'll mount remote file systems using GVFS or some ridiculous thing like that.
Yeah. See, we have an XWin 32, that thing running, a server.
Yeah.
Because it has XWin, it has this live functionality, which lets you have permanent, persistent sessions. So I can basically disconnect. So I have an FEWM custom with I'm SSHing to hundreds of boxes and all this stuff going on. Some of it have active processes.
I don't know how people work. I see other people working and they have windows 100 tabs and they got 100 windows open. And I'm I just close everything immediately. I have the tab I'm working on. If I'm not working on it right now,
here's
it's closed.
What I do. I leave terminals open in different colored background FEWM desktops to different environments in case I have to respond to something quickly. Those are I go to the red desktop, which is where I have shells to all the key production machines ready to go. And then I escalate permissions to the user that can actually do shit. I don't stay escalated, so I don't accidentally, I'm
just saying, it's other people's workflows. It seems like most people I've seen, watched compute have a lot of stuff open all the time.
Most people, it's not even that. I think the average person, they just leave all these fucking windows open in the background all over the place.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm the only one who ever, I just constantly closing things. I'm close.
I try to close everything I'm not using or expecting to use in the next few minutes.
I close, even things I'm going to use in the next few minutes, and I open them again.
Yep.
That's the way it is. Anyway, so there's 3 awesome SSH tricks for you.
So, this was kind of a crap, people, but I think it'll work, especially since I'm watching Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex again. And goddamn, is that not a great show? Even if you're not an anime fan, you don't listen to the Wednesday shows. If you care about science and technology and sci-fi, you'll probably like Ghost in the Shell because it's basically straight up about cyberization and what it means.
I'm pretty sure a lot of non-anime peoples have seen Ghost in the Shell. It's, it's like Akira. It's all kinds of people have seen it.
But they probably don't realize
it's not restricted to anime fans. In fact, I would say it's more popular among non-anime fans.
They probably don't know, however, that there are 2 26-episode TV shows in addition to the movie.
I don't know. Some of the people who watch the Adult Swim might have known because I think one of them or both of them was on the Adult Swim at some point.
I don't know.
But I do think that, yes, they are far less well-known than the movie. And there are many people who perhaps saw the movie back in the 90s and did not know that there was more that had come out afterwards.
But the show, the main push of the show and the movies is the idea, what is consciousness? What are we? That sort of thing. And it really raises the issue of cyberization. What will society be like when we can just start replacing entire human bodies with robots that effectively are immortal? And the only thing we can't really make immortal yet is an actual physical brain.
I think one thing will definitely be problematic, right? Is that, right now we have, issues of power and electricity, right? And, humans are powered by food. So if we get into some kind of world where we stop making food, that saves us a bunch. But then we have to make more electricity. Otherwise, you'll die when you run out of batteries.
Or at the same time, we already made a robot that kills flies, eats them, and then uses that to make more electricity to kill more flies.
But is that going to be enough to power a whole human being forever?
Well, the whole, the idea of power...
in Galaxy Express 3.9, what did the robot people ate people?
Well, I think that the issue there is that, one of the thing that's holding back technology, at least technology that individual humans will use more so than anything now, is the fact that we cannot make safe batteries that hold a lot of power.
Oh, that's a completely separate issue, yeah.
But it's the same thing for cyberization. Like, that's a hurdle that would have to be overcome. How do you power this stuff? I mean, we can't even make a laptop that lasts 12 hours and does anything useful. Mm-hmm. How are we going to make a person?
We're not. All right, we're the best that we're going to get, I think, without advances in power that are crazy is, some robot parts. We already got some of this going on.
Biomechanical systems might work, especially if we have this kind of, we make some sort of pseudo-biological muscle tissue that we control with technology.
Yeah, I mean, people already have pacemakers, right? Plenty of them. Some guy just went home with a artificial heart for the first time. Other people have artificial hearts, but no one ever took one home.
A lot of people, when they talk about cyberization, they either think, Ghost in the Shell right away. They don't realize that humans have been cyberizing themselves, for serious. There have been cyborgs since we had the first prosthetics.
Our crutches are, it's that doesn't count.
Yeah,
right?
They're not integrated though. Maybe cyborg requires integrated prosthetics.
A hook, a peg leg doesn't count.
Yeah, those might count.
But why doesn't that count?
Those are prosthetics.
Yeah. Oh, why does it have to be attached to you to count, though?
Well, integrated prosthetics are very different from detached prosthetics. Yeah. I mean, by crutches, by that logic, a pencil is a prosthetic because I can write with it. I couldn't do that normally.
Well, I mean, neurologically, it actually is a prosthetic, right? Your brain treats, when you use tools, your brain treats the tools as a part of your own body. So in that way, I guess it is sort of a prosthetic to use any tool, physical-wise. A keyboard is an extension of my body when I am typing.
Well, by definition, a prosthesis is literally just something that replaces a body part that is now missing.
But I mean, we're not talking about just prosthesis, though. We're talking about any cyberization.
Well, that's going to be the big push. Is that right now? And I think this is kind of the most...
There is non-prosthetic cyberization.
The most interesting aspect of cyberization is that we're going to get to the point where people will do it voluntarily, not to overcome a failure of their body, but to enhance an already perfectly functioning body. That's going to be, I think, the biggest tipping point in human history.
Oh, some people are already sort of doing that.
Well, we have that with surgery now with baseball players, the biggest example. That one surgery that makes them basically a better thrower that originally was used to... I forget what problem it treated, but it was found that by doing it, you basically make them pitch faster.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, people are taking steroids, right? What happens when we have, nanobot steroids?
Yep, or steroids that...
It goes around your muscles and it cleans up all the lactic acid faster, so, it doesn't hurt when you exert yourself, and then you can be like, ah!
Or what if we made steroids that have zero negative side effects? All they do is increase your capability to create muscles.
Just little robots that go around making muscles and eating fats.
So what do we do at that point? I mean, we've already talked, but I don't want to get into the argument of...
Everyone will turn into, ultra buff.
I don't want to get into sports because that argument we've had on this show more than once as to what that'll mean for sports. Mm-hmm. I guess, I don't know. At what point would you go for it?
I would go for it. Mostly, Mike, the only reason I wouldn't go for it, which is a pretty big reason, right, is the safety issue, right? It's like, okay, so I'll install this bionic eye. Oh, fuck, there was a camera in my bionic eye and someone else was watching. Great, that was awesome.
That was a plot in Ghost in the Shell.
That was a plot in Ghost in the Shell. Pretty much everything you're going to come up with is going to be a plot in something, right?
Yeah, most of them will be in Ghost in the Shell.
Or, surrogates or something like that, right? Oh, I'll replace my arm. Oh, shit, my arm got hacked and it did something I didn't want to do.
I don't think surrogates brought up any issue that wasn't already brought up by Ghost in the Shell.
I don't know. It had the stay at home while the robot...
So does Ghost in the Shell with remote agents.
And Ghost in the Shell 2 man-machine interface.
Yeah.
I don't know what came first.
And in the TV show.
I guess. But anyway, it didn't, but it didn't have the, I think what Surrogates has is the social issue of what if everyone's staying at home and a robot is going out, right? As opposed to in Ghost in the Shell, it's like some people go out, some surrogates go out.
Yep. Well, that's the interesting thing. A lot of people, they watch Ghost in the Shell, they think of it as like, so that is a future world where we've reached this level where people are cyberizing. But really, it's looking at, this is a world where the technology is new and only the richest people are doing this.
I mean, think about this. Let's say I'm still using keyboards, right? And I got cyber hands. Someone could figure out what password I'm typing if they could hack my hand because they see me typing, right? They could see the signals go into the fingers. Just it would be like they have a keylogger in my hand instead of a keylogger in the keyboard.
Yep. Well, that's one of the biggest issues too. Is what if we get to the point to where you can hack a person the same way that you hack a computer?
That's why I gotta be cautious.
So here's my concern. I do not believe that in the United States, the legal system we have in place and the government systems we have in place could ever deal with that situation.
No, they couldn't.
Human hacking
could basically become anarchy if
it could never be addressed by
because people who were cyberized and were smart hackers would secure themselves so they couldn't be hacked, and they would hack everyone else with absolutely. It would basically be like gods walking around. They could just control people, and we're already approaching a point where we can read people's actual biological brains. If people have digital brains, oh, they're so fucked. They're so fucked. Oh my god.
Yep. So let's say there weren't any safety issues. Let's say it's like Ghost in the Shell. So we're at the Ghost in the Shell world right now.
There's so many safety issues. Oh my gosh. The Major's just gonna come and use my body to kill some guy, and then I'll have to pay a ton of money to get a new cyber body that sucks.
That only happens to, people she's after. She's not after us.
There's plenty of security issues going on in the Ghost in the Shell world. That's pretty much all it's about, is everyone's getting, hacked.
I don't think everyone is. I think the majority of people aren't.
But even look at even the first Ghost in the Shell manga, right? There was that police officer who had like a cyber arm, and the software in it, she wasn't even hacked. It was just like buggy software in it, so her arm wasn't working properly. And then the Major hacked her and was like, oh, this arm is all fucked up. Oh, it's got the shitty software in it.
I've done that before. Remember we were at RIT hanging out at Luke's apartment with Dave, and Luke was out gone, and we went to use his computer, and it was locked, so I broke into it because we wanted to look on the internet. And then we saw that he didn't have video drivers installed, and he was running like 320 by 200, and I fixed it.
Yep.
It was the same thing.
Yeah, right? That's exactly, but the thing is, that's a bigger deal when it's your arm. And, right now, it doesn't happen too often, but imagine if you get in a situation where it's like, fuck, I can't get the better driver, and now your arm is all fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, think about how much trouble.
What is usually something that's going to be so awesome. Oh man, I'm so strong. I got some grip. I can punch real hard and type crazy fast, and play crokinole perfectly and throw real whatever. But oh fuck, my software is all fucked up and I can't fix it because of some reason. Now becomes an inconvenience. It's no longer a boon but a bane. And I don't want to ever have a bane. It's got to be 100% boon, or at least 99% boon.
All right, so what about the situation of consciousness? Like, say you're getting near the end of your life.
Okay.
Your body is degrading. You don't have more than 5 or 6 years to go.
Okay.
What about I don't think this will happen in our lifetime necessarily, but what about the kind of analog transfer of consciousness, or at least of memories?
Well, if it's possible, right? To basically continue.
I would argue that it is definitely possible to make an effectively perfect copy of an individual person's complete set of experiences and memories, because they're just stored in physical goop in our heads. It's all there.
Yeah, but it's a lot. See, what could you store it in that wasn't an actual brain?
Well, let's say we could make something.
All right. So if your body is sucking real bad, I mean, it's better to have, right? Even if someone hacks you get a new body, and someone hacks it and it sucks, it's better than nobody, right? So if I'm in a dying old geezer can't walk situation, I'll take the hackable legs before I get, rather than no legs.
But with the brain specifically, I mean, think about this. All right, so say we can make, because remember,
better to be alive and continue your consciousness.
Well, no, that's the interesting thing.
Be dead.
You keep saying be alive and continue my consciousness. So let me lay out a bunch of groundwork for this, and then let's see how you answer now. So, all right, your consciousness is not a unified thing. We know that. Our human consciousness is all these disparate parts kind of talking to each other in real time, but not synchronized. Like, one side of your brain cannot know the state of any other part of the brain while that other side knows the state of it, because there's propagation delays due to the speed of light.
Mm-hmm.
So our consciousness is not a unit. It's not a thing. It's this kind of analog overall structure that is the temporal sum of all the interactions going on at once.
Yep.
So there is no like unit of consciousness. It's just all these kind of independent systems hitting each other with huge delays between them, sometimes variable delays between them.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's a single thread. Consciousness is the thread that is continuing. So if you move your consciousness to another structure, so the analogy of your consciousness is 100%. Every individual memory, every experience, everything that is you, but that thread very likely could not ever itself be transferred because it exists in this physical medium that can only exist on that physical medium. If you recreate it perfectly somewhere else, you're recreating its structure with a different underlying physical structure.
What you could do, right? Let's say you have
so even if you have say you make an organic brain that is 100% identical to the brain you're transferring out of.
All right.
All the memories can be transferred, but basically if you turn on that new brain, it would pick up thinking consciously the exact moment where your previous brain left off. But it wouldn't stop your previous brain from thinking. It would just be a new you that's completely indistinguishable from you. Your thread of consciousness, by the nature of physics, very likely would not be able to inhabit any new thing we could ever build. A perfect copy if you could, but you would still die.
That's true. I was going to say, like, what if I went into like a real-time fMRI and in real time they built a brain that was identical to my brain based on the fMRI, right? So now you got two identical brains, like, but that one's not you.
But it is
I would
you.
sit there looking at one that was me, but it wouldn't be me.
But here's the scary thing. It would be indistinguishable from you.
But would I still, but the thing is, right? So, okay, so now they make it across the room from me, right? This is two rooms next to each other in the brain lab.
Yep.
And they make the copy of me in room number 2 and I'm in room number 1, right? Already, as you know, we're in sync while they're making it. And then we're done. So it goes, aha. Already, Scott 1 and Scott 2 are in separate environments, so they diverge immediately.
Yes. However,
so I can think and talk to Scott 2, and it's going to have a conversation with me. It's not going to be in sync with me. It's not going to be like there's one consciousness that is controlling both of these bodies.
Now that's the interesting and also scary part because, all right, so you have this copy of you. It picks up, and until it realizes, basically it'll look around the room and realize,
and
okay,
of course, if it has a younger, better body than the old dying Scott has, right? It's definitely going to go on a different path.
Oh, yes.
Than the car. So even though they start at the exact same instant, they would diverge.
But here's the thing. So they diverge. All right. It immediately knows I am the copy in the better body.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, it has every memory that you had. It is 100% you. It is as though...
But it's not me because I'm still thinking...
Yep. So it is as though that moment you went into this new body, but simultaneously your old body is still going. The thread... So you get a new cyborg body and you make a copy of your brain into it. Mm-hmm. The you that got copied to the new one is still going to die in the old body. It can never be moved to another body because it is the sum of its physical parts. The analogy can't ever know itself. The analogy can't be transferred, but consciousness is the analogy. So it is possible with, the idea of cyberization. In fact, it is likely, very likely, that the process of making...
But so you're saying that when the old, I make a copy of myself, and when the old Scott dies, the new Scott will also die?
No. So you've got your continuous thread of consciousness, right?
Yeah.
So right now you're thinking stuff, and you have all your memories, and so you're thinking, I am here. You look at yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That thread of you will, you get a new cyber body. You won't wake up in the new cyber body. You go to sleep. You wake up. You're in your old shitty body, and there's a new Scott over there who leads an awesome life, and then you die.
Yeah, we already said that.
Yeah. So what if you're near the end of your life, and that is the only way to transfer? Do you do it? Do you want to make a new copy of yourself that you will never experience to go off and do you forever?
Well, it depends, right? Like if I'm... being super productive, like let's say I'm like Norman Borlaug or something, right? Then yeah, because okay, sure, it's not gonna get me the huge benefit of still being alive. You're already gonna die, right?
Yep.
So if you can't avoid the death, right, in any way, all you can do is make a new you. Then do it if extending your life would benefit the world.
But here's the interesting thing.
If you're gonna die anyway, what difference does it make if there's a copy of you or not?
All right, so one, you could make two yous.
Maybe. Is
Yeah.
there going to be a benefit to two me's?
Of course, Ghost in the Shell, the only way they get around that is they say, well, there's a ghost that we can't figure out how to transfer.
I mean, it depends on the people, right? Whether how many it'll be worth it, right? Like, let's say you're the best pitcher in baseball. You should make 5 U's so you can pitch every day. Maybe you should make 10 U's so you can pitch in relief of yourself. And you would win, right? And then make 9 fielders, right? That are all, right? Of the same guy who all hit home runs every time.
6 Babe Ruths. Can't lose.
6 Babe Ruths can't lose, right? So, it depends, right? Whereas if you're, say, for example...
Hitler.
No.
We don't want to make more Hitlers.
You're a great military general, right? You know a lot of military strategies and tactics, right? You only want one of you, but you want the ability to make a backup if you die, right? But if there's 2 of you, that's problematic because 2 of you are not going to come up with something that one of you wouldn't have come up with. But 2 of you, that other guy, he could become a traitor and now you're fighting against you. You don't want that.
That'd be a really good fucking movie. So the Russians steal the clone of MacArthur that's leading our army and they wake him up and then they teach him, look how much better our system is. There's MacArthur US versus Red MacArthur.
Yeah, that's, you get a Superman.
Yeah, that's an awesome fucking movie.
Yeah, but you don't want that to be real life, right? You just like if you make 5 baseball pitchers that are all you don't want one traded to the other team. That is not.
So you're forgetting. What if you do the Dr. McNinja? So you make 10 of you, the great general, and you send them to fight in 10 different fronts in American wars on the quote-unquote good guy side.
But Dr. McNinja was able to reabsorb them. We didn't say that you could do that.
No, so you can't reabsorb them, right? All right, fine. Well, maybe we could by giving them all the combined memories.
Oh, you
of
just get a
everybody.
whole bunch of people that are already awesome, and they all get different training. Like each guy learns a different martial art, then they all come back,
and they either sit on the Council of Elders and debate among each other,
or they all teach each other. So now all of them. The thing is, right? If you can transfer your stuff, right? Why would you bother making 10 guys to each learn one martial art, then come back and all teach each other the 9 martial arts that they didn't learn?
Well, here's the other thing.
You could, in the same amount of time, you could have one guy just go and learn 10 martial arts. If he dies, he can make another copy to continue on.
Would you want to?
It wouldn't take any less.
Would you want to take the full experiences of another person's life? Because you'd get you'd have all the skills they had, but their consciousness, the new thread of their consciousness that starts up in your brain, would theoretically, unless you did something very clever, be equal in strength to you. And in fact, you could not differentiate you from it. There'd just be one. Would you do that if you were combining with someone awesome?
Wait, so it's like I just added Einstein to myself? So
yes,
now there's 2 brains in my brain?
But there is no you and Einstein. There's just the you that is the combination. I mean, Ghost in the Shell got into that when she merged.
Right. If I could do that? It depends on who it is.
But then Dave wants to further. Why don't we just merge all of humanity and have a perfect, Ubermind, then go off into space?
No, you can't merge all of humanity because you get a bunch of shit in there. You got to have a good filter on that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So all I'm leading up to with this is, all right, so we know, you make a new copy of you, the thread of consciousness dies. Here's a practical consideration because we keep going into the theoretical. What if, so you now are at your peak mental capacity because, we're at the age where we're before the mental decline.
I don't know. I'd hope not.
So we're going to get to a point 10, 20 years from now.
I hope I got more room to grow.
So let's say you're at the point, you're 40. And scientists told us now that your brain from this point forward is going to degrade. You won't be as clever and quick. You'll never be more clever and quick than you are now.
Is that true?
Let's say it is.
If it's true, then we got to change the Constitution because we can't be allowing anyone over 40 to be president.
But then the thing
if they have a declining mental state.
Thing is, we do. Human brains decline, but we make up for that with the benefit of the memories we have, the additional experience.
But then is it really a decline?
That's why the 60-year-old racquetball...
How is that a decline if you know more?
Well, but the thing is, the physical part does decline, but you have the memories.
Uh-huh.
All right, so we know this. So if we somehow could prevent the physical decline and keep the memories, we would just get better over time forever, like the elves in Burning Wheel do.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we got all that. This is why the 60-year-old racquetball player can beat me. I'm faster than him, but he knows a hell of a lot more about racquetball than I do.
Uh-huh. I didn't realize racquetball was a knowledge game.
It is, more so than a physical game. Much older men who are very frail can kick the shit out of me.
Uh-huh. But don't they have to hit the ball real hard?
No, because they hit it with such precision that it goes boop, 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 into the corner. Or he sees where I'm standing and knows how fast I am, so he hits it perfectly to where I have to run super fast and just tires me out, and then he just beats me.
thing I never understood about racquetball, this is a way big tangent,
Yeah?
right? Is you get two people in this little box hitting the ball.
All right, so if
But why don't you just how do you not bump into the other guy? I would just stand where you needed to go and you'd bump into me.
If you're in my way, I can just fucking hit you. And then I get a point because you were in my way.
Oh, so why don't I just barrel into the other guy on purpose every time instead of actually trying to hit the ball?
You could. That's a valid strategy. You might get a foul. Depends on what kind of style you're playing and everything.
What do you mean? If the guy who gets bumped is the loser, I would just play bump every time I push rim.
It's more complex than that. So the ball's coming at me and I gotta hit it. If you're in my way and I hit you, it's your fault.
So, but if you're hiding in the corner and I come over and kick you in the shin.
No.
That's not a no.
No.
When the ball was going to the opposite corner.
No good.
And so how do we need a referee to determine if you were actually in my way or not?
So having played racquetball a lot, it's always obvious. But all that aside, all right, so we've laid all this ground rules. So practical question. You're 40. Science tells us that your physical brain is going to get slower over time, but your memories and knowledge are going to kind of balance that for another 20 or 30 years, but the decline is real.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say we can cyberize you. We can make a copy of your brain into a cyber brain that will not degrade. So your peak physical brain will go on forever, never getting worse, and your memories will just increase.
All right.
But to do this, we have to destroy your current physical brain and kill you. Would you kill yourself to create a copy of you that you will never experience that is indistinguishable from you for every intent and purpose? The only distinguishing factor between the two is that 1, it is immortal and will be forever and awesome. And 2, your solipsistic mind will never experience that.
All right, so here's the answer is kind of obvious, right? You already said that you're still going to be good for so many years, with your memories.
But the physical decline. So say say you wait till you're 60 to do it. The decline of 60 gets transferred over because that's your consciousness.
Why does it have to? That's BS.
Because that's how it is. If I'm going to transfer your entire...
If we're going to make shit up, let's make shit up to be awesome. The cyber body is always at peak physicalness.
No, but Scott, think about it.
You want to wait till you have all the memories of being way old.
If you want to copy the state of your brain... You're going to copy the broken shit along with the working shit.
But if we know that much about brains, we can fix the brain too.
Can you, though? Because the brokenness of the brain is an inherent part of your consciousness.
No, we can fix the brain.
All right, fine.
And if it's going to be a copy...
Scott, if you want to skip that part, let's go to another question. Let's say to do cyberization, there's a final deadline. If you get past a certain point of degradation, they can't fix it. So if you're 80... and you're senile, you can't undo that when you're making the copy of you. You'd make a copy of you that will stay at that level of senility.
You're putting all these unnecessary complications.
Because they're realistic complications.
I don't think it's a realistic complication.
Well, they are for physics and everything. All right, so let's say that's not the case. We can still kind of fix it. But we can't fix death.
All right.
At what point would you accept killing yourself to make a copy of you that is immortal?
When I'm going to die anyway.
All right, so what if you can't be 100% sure?
I'm in severe pain.
All right. So
I'm suffering. I can't really do all that much. Maybe it's like a Stephen Hawking situation. I'm not too old, but I'm not really, I'd be much better off with a brand new body. Or I'm 90, I'm in a hospital bed, I can talk, but really, I got some cancer or some shit. I can't, do anything. It hurts. They got me on some drugs. It's not looking too good.
No.
That's a good point.
Right. So here's the thing. The in a perfect world,
everyone I know and care about is dead because I outlived them all, those bastards.
So the in a perfect world question is not nearly as interesting. So I want to go back to the other question. Let's say it sucks.
All right, I'll go with your hypothetical.
Just because I think it's more interesting. Let's say right now, this world, it sucks. We know for a fact the day you turn 40, your brain's going to start declining, and when you cyberize, it kills you because they take your brain apart to do it. So it kills you.
All right.
And the state of your brain, whatever physical decline you've had of the physical brain, cannot be repaired in the new brain. It's just a copy that will never degrade further.
All right.
At what point do you cyberize?
It depends on me, right?
Yeah.
Like
I'm asking
what
you.
It depends on me, right? What are my skills? Am I going to be able to accomplish some awesomeness by adding some memories despite the degradation of the brain? Is the rest of my life looking pretty good? Is it
Yep.
looking pretty shitty? Is it looking like I'm gonna, make, it's like, okay, I can do some pretty awesome with the rest of my life. I'll stick with it, or, it looks like I'm not going to be able to do any awesome, but a cyber me can do so much awesome. It can change the whole world. So
Oh shit, Scott. Oh shit.
What?
So I'm looking online.
I'll sacrifice myself
Scott,
for the greater
Scott,
good of the cyber whatever.
Brain power peaks at about 22 and maintains steadily until about 27 and then declines irrevocably.
That's bullshit.
That's the reality of the world according to all these articles I've been pulling up in the last couple of
That's
minutes.
not true.
That's what everyone says.
No, it's not true.
So, assuming that all these like theses and all this research I'm looking at right now is true, we're at the point at which we will never have the physical brain power again that we have right now.
Mm-hmm.
What are we going to do? Because I think if we had cyberization right now, I think within about 5 or 6 years, I would probably kill myself to do that and to make a copy
The
of me
thing
that was
is,
immortal
right?
forever.
Like if you do that, it's like, what do I care?
Yes, that's the cool and scary part.
It's like, hey Rim, let's do the podcast. All right, you're Rim too. To me, it doesn't matter for me.
This is the coolest
All that
thing
matters to you.
to me about cyberization is the idea that the only difference between you that gets destroyed and perfect copy of you that is immortal is the only thing that could ever tell there ever was a difference at all is the solipsistic consciousness that only ever existed inside of the old you in the first place. No other thing in the world could ever tell there was a difference.
The thing
Would you
is-
sacrifice your own solipsistic existence for immortality for another you and for everyone who ever knew you? Isn't that the most selfless thing you could ever do?
No, that's not the most selfless thing you'd ever do.
And saving babies from Hitler at the same time.
The most selfless thing you'd ever do is actually completely get yourself killed, to save the universe.
No. What about you kill yourself at 22, your absolute peak, to make 100 copies of you that will live forever, and they keep coming back and getting eternal memory forever.
Well, that's just the mechanism.
And have the elf situation where the accumulated grief of all the painful things you've seen as you vow to spend all of eternity enduring all hardship to make other people's lives
The thing is, I
better.
don't understand, why can't we just come up with a way to transfer the solipsistic you, right?
Well, Scott, but think about it. The solipsistic you is an asynchronous, like basically analogy that can't actually see itself.
Well, it's a bunch of electrical signals, right? So you can have like a magnet, and you could basically move all those electrons.
But Scott, your consciousness is not any state. It's just like a process that kind of starts and stops. I mean, it is very likely that anytime you are under anesthesia or you go to sleep even, that you die just the same as if you destroyed your brain and made a new copy.
So maybe we should do it that way, where you take a nap, and then they move it while you're sleeping, and then you wake up, and then you wouldn't even know. So it'd be totally cool.
Yeah, but
It
think about
doesn't
that.
matter.
Say we determine that's true. Say we do understand everything that cognition is and everything that consciousness is, and we determine that yes, every time you lose consciousness, you might as well be dead, and a new you starts up with the same memories whenever the process that starts that waking up happens. Mm-hmm. Then you might as well cyberize right away because you died anyway every fucking night.
Yeah.
Or what if instead you use
Just make sure you put the new one in my bed so I wake up in the right place.
But this raises a really, really interesting question that we're not going to have time to talk about. So what if we, that military drug that lets you basically stay up for like a week straight?
All right.
What if we come up with a safe way to do that forever? So you basically, you can have your personal physical thread of consciousness just never stops ever again.
Okay.
As opposed to currently now where it starts and stops all the time, but the only stateful part is the memory set. What if the consciousness itself were able to be made stateful? Currently, that drives us insane, but that might just be due to physical problems that we don't understand yet.
So
what if
I
we
can
understand
somehow
them?
overcome all of those problems, right? And then I could just be up all the time and never sleep. Why not? Why would you?
Yeah.
Why would you want to sleep if you didn't have? I mean, you could maybe like relax your muscles because they would still hurt, I guess.
Well, I think
depending, right? And you could like lay down and rest or whatever. But you wouldn't be tired and need to sleep. Why would you? You could just keep doing stuff. You could party all night and work all day and party all night.
Raises the
but right now, if you
fundamental-
try to do that, there's horrible side effects.
So
like
this
Red
raises
Bull.
the fundamental, I guess, all debates about cyberization are really just practical debates. It's no different.
What is the risk-reward ratio considering these consequences?
Yeah, it's no different than our debate about cell phones in the first half of this show. Do I do this or this? Well, this has this benefit, this risk, Apple, whatever. Do you want the Apple body or the HTC body? It's all.
Yeah, think about it. If you had to get a body today, right? Which one would you get?
Oh my fucking God.
If your body had to be a smartphone.
So the Apple one's totally pretty, but Steve Jobs watches you pee.
He doesn't watch you pee. He just tells you which, he doesn't allow 20-inch penises. He only allows the 10 and 15-inch penises.
Yeah.
And the 15-inch one costs $5 more.
But the blue one.
I don't know. I'd pay $5 for a 15-inch penis.
So, but here's the thing, this raises really the final. Cyberization is no different than any other debate, except it raises a lot of vitriol in a lot of people, and people try to treat it as a different debate from which cell phone do I do. And I don't think it is. I think the only reason cyberization is in any way treated differently from any other debate in the world is that people who aren't able to deal with transhumanism freak the fuck out.
Those are people who have some sort of spiritual or idea of souls or something like that. Is the only reason you would have a problem with it is if you believed in anything like that somehow consciousness was special or not just atoms,
or even if we decide to make it special,
souls were somehow real.
Even if we decide to make it special, or we find some reason that we find something, maybe there's some science there that's interesting.
Then we can move it. If we find there's this magnetic field, and that's your soul. Well, we can use a magnet to move the magnetic field to a different brain, and you can maintain your consciousness in a new, better body.
The only people for whom this is really controversial on some deep level are the people who have decided that being human, the same humans effectively that existed 40,000 years ago,
somehow different from being a raccoon.
And that why don't we just make something better? I think the future of human evolution is that our information world, the world we interact with information-wise, is already evolving faster than physical things could ever keep up. We will never evolve faster than our own information. So why don't we become the information itself? Why doesn't that analogy, one level higher than us, be the legacy of humankind, and humankind will eventually disappear?
Yeah, that's the last question.
Yeah, and that's what I'm going for. I'll give up. I am so totally willing to give up my humanity for pretty much an iPhone at this point. But you're just arguing that you don't want the iPhone, but you'll just buy a Pre with money, but you won't buy an iPhone. You can buy an iPhone for money, but you only give up your humanity. But I can't be an iPhone.
Yeah, you can.
All right, I think we've exhausted this for now. This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geeknights is not one, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.